All right, Raiders fans, let's sit down and really talk about what happened yesterday, because this game was one of those that the silver and black should have taken home. You look at it, you replay it in your head, and there's no doubt that this was a winnable game, but somehow it slipped through our fingers. And that's exactly why Raider Nation is buzzing right now, frustrated, emotional, but still here, still loyal. Because at the end of the day, that's what this fan base is all about. Through the highs, the lows, and the absolutely gut-wrenching losses, you stay locked in because that's what family does. We ride together whether it's a win, a loss, or a tie, and today is the perfect moment to have one of those raw conversations about where this team stands, especially when it comes to the most important position on the field. Let's dive into the obvious talking point, the one that everyone is circling around, and that is the quarterback situation. Right now, all eyes are on Gino Smith. The guy has been a walking roller coaster, but sadly, most of the dips are nosedives this season. You don't even have to squint at the stat sheet to see how rough it's been. He's already sitting at 7 interceptions, and if you project that out, he's on pace to hit that brutal 30 interception mark by the time the year wraps up. And just to give you perspective, since the year 2000, only one quarterback has actually thrown 30 or more interceptions in a season. That was Jameis Winston back in 2019. So if Gino keeps slinging the ball to the other team at this rate, we're talking about him entering into some truly ugly history. Now, here's the thing. Gino has been bad enough that the benching conversation is fair. It's not just a hot take. It's not just fans overreacting after a tough loss. He has played poorly enough that you could justify sitting him down. But does that mean the Raiders should actually do it right now? Not exactly. And here's why. For all of his struggles, Gino Smith is still the best quarterback option currently on this roster. He's better than Kenny Pickett, and he's certainly ahead of Aiden O'Connell, who might be coming off injured reserve soon. And let's not even pretend there's some miracle free agent or trade piece floating out there, because there isn't. This front office is not going to pull a quarterback off the street that's better than Gino Smith. As frustrating as it is to admit, this team has to ride with him for now. That doesn't mean Gino deserves a free pass. Pete Carroll, the head coach, has always talked about competition, about every player needing to earn a spot. Well, if that's really the standard, then Gino has to feel that pressure too. He cannot just walk out there week after week throwing picks and not feel his job on the line. Because let's be real here, the performance he's putting on right now is the worst version of Gino Smith we've seen since his early days with the New York Jets. This is not the guy we saw in Seattle who managed games, protected the football, and even flirted with being a top 10 quarterback for stretches. This is a quarterback who looks lost, rattled, and completely out of sync with his weapons. Statistically, the picture is just as grim. He ranks 22nd in the league in completion percentage among qualifying quarterbacks. His QBR sits at 43.1, which puts him in the bottom tier at 25th. His quarterback rating is even worse at 27th. And again, he flat out leads the entire National Football League in interceptions. There is no way to spin that positively. And if you're a fan who says, well, we should have seen this coming, I don't buy it. Gino never played this poorly in Seattle under Carroll. In fact, for 3 straight seasons there, he looked nothing like what we're seeing now. So no, this collapse wasn't obvious, and it makes it that much more maddening to watch unfold in a Raiders uniform. What stings even more is the pattern we've been stuck in. It feels like every veteran quarterback who comes here ends up putting together the worst stretch of football in his entire career. Gardner Minshew came in and instantly looked like a shell of himself. Jimmy Garoppolo, same story. Now Gino Smith joins the list, and the comparisons don't lie. Through 4 games as a Raider, his stat line mirrors what those other quarterbacks gave us. Sure, he's thrown for a few more yards and touchdowns, but he's also coughing up the football at an alarming rate. And that win-loss column tells the whole story. Gardner Minshew was 2-2 through his first 4, Garoppolo the same. Gino Smith is sitting at 1-3, and that with a better offensive coordinator and, on paper, a more balanced system. And that's where the frustration boils over. It is incredibly hard to win in the National Football League when you don't have stability under center. You can scheme, you can call creative plays, you can even get a monster performance out of your running backs or receivers. But if your quarterback is constantly giving the other team extra possessions, it's almost impossible to overcome. That's exactly what Raider Nation is watching unfold right now. Every interception feels like a punch in the gut, and after a while it becomes not just a game issue, but a psychological one. The defense starts pressing, the offense gets conservative, and suddenly you're stuck in a cycle of trying not to lose instead of going out there to win. Yet here's the brutal truth. Gino Smith is still the starting quarterback because the Raiders don't have a better option. That's not blind loyalty. That's just the reality of the depth chart. The franchise has tied itself to him, at least for the short term. And unless a miracle happens in the trade market, it's his job to either salvage or sink. That's why fans are so torn right now. On one hand, you can't keep pretending he's not hurting the team with turnovers. On the other, benching him for a lesser option is basically waving the white flag on the season. That's why this conversation is so complicated, and that's why every Raider fan you talk to today has a strong opinion one way or the other. The irony in all of this is that while Gino struggles, other pieces on this offense are finally starting to show flashes. Ashton Janney, for example, looked like the real deal. 21 carries, 138 yards, and a touchdown with a long run of 64 yards. He showcased the vision, the burst, the ability to be a three-down back that this team has been craving. The offensive line even opened up lanes, and the ground game put up a staggering 240 rushing yards. That should be more than enough to walk away with a win, yet it wasn't because the quarterback play dragged everything else down. And that's what makes it so tough to stomach. You can finally see pieces coming together in other areas, but the most important position keeps dragging the whole operation backwards. So where do the Raiders go from here? They keep Gino in the lineup, but they need to put him on notice. He cannot walk into next week assuming he's untouchable. He has to compete, and he has to know that his margin for error is shrinking fast. Raider Nation deserves better. This roster deserves better. And frankly, he should want better for himself. Because right now, he looks like a quarterback on the verge of being remembered for all the wrong reasons. All right, let's pick this back up because there's more that has to be said about what's happening with this team. I've been hammering away at Gino Smith, and for good reason. But it's not just about the numbers or the interceptions. It's about the mental side of this game, too. When you're watching him right now, it feels like he's pressing, like he knows every mistake is going to pile on to the pressure, and it's showing up in his decision-making. He's staring down receivers, forcing throws into double coverage, and missing the easy checkdowns that could at least keep the chains moving. That's not the Gino we expected when this season began. Coming in, the tape from Seattle showed a quarterback who was calm, who worked within the offense, and who was capable of being somewhere in that top 12 to top 14 range in the league. Instead, he's sitting at the bottom in nearly every important category, and it's not just hurting his reputation, it's hurting the Raiders as a whole. Now, to be fair, this is not all on Gino. Yes, his interceptions are killing drives and momentum, but the coaching staff deserve a piece of the blame pie too. They've been slow to make adjustments, hesitant to put players in positions that highlight their strengths, and sometimes it feels like they're trying to reinvent the wheel instead of just running with what works. A perfect example is Ashton Janney. The kid proved in college, and now he's proving in the pros that when you let him play to his strengths, he could be explosive. Yesterday, he finally looked like the back we've been hoping for, but it shouldn't take 3 weeks of trial and error before the staff realizes he belongs on the field. The same goes for the offensive line. JPJ stepped in and clearly showed he's one of the better linemen on this roster. Yet it took injuries and desperate situations before he got his chance. That kind of stubbornness from the coaching staff is part of the problem because this league doesn't give you time to wait around. You have to figure things out fast or you're sitting at 1-3 like the Raiders are right now. Still, when you watch that game closely, you see that this team actually did a lot of things well. The offensive line was bullying Chicago's front for most of the afternoon. The run game was dominant, averaging almost 8 yards per carry. The receivers got open, and the play calling the ground attack was finally creative, leaning into outside zone and giving Janney opportunities to hit the edge. Even the defense had moments where they stood tall, and yet all of it was undone by turnovers at the quarterback position. That's the kind of loss that sticks with you because you know it wasn't about talent or effort. It was about self-inflicted wounds. Raider Nation has lived through plenty of heartbreak, but this one stings because the path to victory was right there, and the team let it slip. This is where the emotional side of being a Raiders fan kicks in. Because for so many of you, this isn't just football. It's your Sundays, it's your family tradition, it's your escape from everything else going on in life. When you watch this team, you pour yourself into it. And when the product on the field looks like this, it wears you down. And that's why loyalty gets tested. But the truth is, the fans are not the problem here. Raider Nation shows up no matter what. They pack stadiums, they make noise, they live and breathe this team. The problem is that the organization continues to bring in quarterbacks who end up playing the worst football of their careers the second they put on silver and black. And that's not coincidence anymore. That's a pattern that needs to be broken if this franchise ever wants to climb out of mediocrity. Looking ahead, the conversation has to be about accountability. Gino Smith has to be held to the same standard as every other player on this roster. If JPJ can be made to fight for his spot, if rookies and backups are forced to prove themselves every week, then the starting quarterback cannot be immune. That doesn't necessarily mean benching him tomorrow, but it does mean making it clear that his job is not untouchable. If he keeps putting up performances like the last few weeks, then yes, the conversation about handing the reins to Kenny Pickett or Aiden O'Connell becomes real, even if they're not the ideal options. Because nothing kills a locker room faster than the feeling that accountability only applies to some players and not others. There's also the psychological weight of this losing streak. 3 games in a row might not sound like a death sentence for the season, but it feels heavier because of the way it's happening. These aren't blowout losses where you can say the other team was just better. These are self-inflicted, mistake-ridden games that leave everyone frustrated because the Raiders should be better than this. And when you keep stacking those kinds of losses, it starts to feel like the season is slipping away faster than it should. That's why so many fans are already saying, it's over. It's not mathematically over, but the mental grind of watching the same problems repeat themselves makes it feel that way. And yet, even in the frustration, there are glimpses of hope. The rushing attack looked as dangerous as it has in years. Jani showed the burst, the cuts, the vision, and even the pass protection that you want to feature back. The offensive line, for all its criticism, proved it can dominate when the right pieces are in place. There are young players showing flashes on defense. So it's not all doom and gloom, but it is a reality check that until the quarterback play stabilizes, those positives won't matter enough. So here we are, Raider Nation, standing at the crossroads of another season. 1-3 doesn't have to be the end, but it sure feels like it if the same mistakes keep piling up. The quarterback has to play better. The coaching staff has to stop overthinking simple things, and the team as a whole has to show that the word competition applies to everyone. Otherwise, this fan base is going to be left with another year of what-ifs and broken promises. And that's the hardest part of all, because the loyalty is always there, the passion is always there, but patience is running out. Before we continue, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and give this video a like. Your support helps us keep bringing you the latest updates on our Las Vegas Raiders. And don't be shy. Drop your thoughts on the news in the comments below. In what could be the most shocking development of the NFL offseason, whispers are turning into roars. Tristan Worfs, the towering offensive tackle who has dominated the line for years, is reportedly leaning toward a move that would shake the league to its core. Sources close to the player claim that Worfs has said yes to the Las Vegas Raiders, igniting speculation and frenzy among fans and analysts alike. The news, still unofficial, is being treated as a massive bombshell. Worfs, a cornerstone of his current franchise's offensive line, has been linked to the Raiders in hushed conversations and closed-door meetings, but no formal announcement has been made. Yet, insiders suggest the discussions are more than just casual flirtation. Worfs appears genuinely interested in bringing his talent to Las Vegas, a city that has been aggressively chasing marquee players to solidify its roster. The potential signing would send shockwaves not just in the AFC West, but across the entire league. Raiders fans have long clamored for a game-changing presence on the offensive line, and Worfs fits the bill perfectly. At 6 feet 5 inches and nearly 330 pounds, his combination of agility, strength, and football IQ could transform the Raiders' protection schemes and open lanes for a high-powered offense. For rivals, the thought of facing a reinforced Raiders line next season is enough to raise eyebrows and pulse rates. Of course, caution remains. The NFL world knows that until contracts are signed and ink dries, nothing is guaranteed. Teams often engage in multiple negotiations, and rumors can implode as quickly as they surface. Yet the consistency of the whispers, coupled with the timing, suggests that something substantial is brewing. Analysts are already debating what this move could mean for salary caps, draft strategies, and even team dynamics, as Worfs would instantly become a centerpiece of any locker room he enters. Meanwhile, social media has exploded with speculation, memes, and hot takes. Some fans are ecstatic, envisioning a fortified Raiders line ready to dominate, while others express skepticism, questioning whether this is a negotiating tactic or genuine interest. For now, the story remains a tantalizing tease, an NFL rumor with enough firepower to dominate headlines and keep fans glued to the offseason chatter. As the days tick by, all eyes will be on Las Vegas and Worfs camp. Will this rumor materialize into the blockbuster signing the league has been buzzing about? If it does, it could redefine the Raiders' identity and send shockwaves through the NFL hierarchy. One thing is certain, wherever Tristan Worfs lands, the NFL landscape will never be the same again. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to stay updated with exclusive news about our Las Vegas Raiders, be sure to subscribe to our channel and hit that like button. We can't wait to hear your thoughts in the comments. See you in the next video.